Hey, what's up everybody? This is Alfred from Practical Code Academy. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create this login form here. Let me refresh the page so you can have a better understanding about the animation when it starts. So when the page load is going to be animated from the top to the middle of the screen like this. Also, I'm going to be implementing a JavaScript validation, and it's going to be custom validation. So if a user tried to submit this form without filling this two inputs, the username and password, he will get the following custom errors here, indicating that the username and the password both are required. Also, let me refresh the page. And this fields actually, he don't have only to submit the form without them. If he tried to enter anything here, for example, John as a username, and then he changed his mind and he deleted, as you can see dynamically, it's not going to wait for him to submit the form. It will show him the error, listen, you need to fill this form. Similar for the password here. And once he started to enter something here, the error message will disappear. And I can enter John here. And if I check my console here, and I submit the form, you will find an object will be submitted or be appeared here in the console, and you can use it to send it to backend if you're implementing this with the backend, or you can check it with a database, a password and a username that's stored in a database. However, sending the password just plain text like this is not a good idea. You need to encrypt it, and then check the encryption with the encryption that you're having in the database. Our project here is pretty much responsive. It's going to fit any screen size. So if I tried iPhone 5, as you can see here, it's adapting to the screen size. Also for taller screens like iPhone X, it will adapt to the screen size. So I can close this now. And also I have some social buttons here, so you can allow the user to log in with them, and they have some hover over effects. And that's pretty much it for today's project. I hope you're gonna like it and you will enjoy it. Let's get started. Okay, I'm gonna keep this page open. I'm gonna put them inside here. Just make it a little bit smaller like this. I'm gonna create a folder here. I'm gonna call it login form. Then I'm gonna open it with Visual Studio Code. Close the welcome screen. Start create your files. In that case, I'm gonna have the HTML file, which is index.html. Also, I'm gonna create the CSS file, which is style.css. And finally, or the last file that I need here is the JavaScript file, which is main.js. For my markup inside the index.html, I can generate a boilerplate using emmet by typing exclamation mark and press tab. For the title here, I'm going to change it to login form. Inside the body here, or actually before we start the body, let's link our styling sheet, style.css. And also, let's insert our JavaScript file using the script tag. I'm going to do source, which is going to be main.js. And also for this project, for the Facebook and Google, I need the icons here. I'm going to use Font Awesome library. So I can search for Font Awesome library, or CDN. And I can use the first one, which is the Bootstrap CDN. Let's copy it, copy the link, and link it to our page here. And Control-V, save it. Let me view, work, wrap. Do it this way. Okay, I don't need this anymore. Now I'm ready to insert my markup here. I'm going to start with creating a section. I'm going to give it an ID of login window. Inside my section, first I'm going to have an H1 here. I'm going to call it login. After the H1, I have my form. So I'm going to create a form. And I don't need the action attribute, so I can delete that since we're not communicating this data to any backend. However, I need to give it an ID, which I'm going to call it login. Inside my login, I'm going to have my input. The first one, which is the username, is a type text. I'm going to place a placeholder, which is enter your user name. And also I want to give it a class of form input. And also we'll set the autocomplete to off. Okay, if I try to submit it here, as you can see, the error is right after my input here. So I need to create this error, the markup for this error, which is going to be simply a paragraph with a class of error. I'm going to give it an ID with username error. I'm going to put the message user name is required, exclamation mark. And this for the username. For the password is going to be pretty much the same. I'm going to copy it, paste it over there. However, for the password, it's not going to be type text, it's going to be type password. For the placeholder, it's going to be enter your password. Still going to have the class form input and the autocomplete off. The error will going to have, or the paragraph with the error going to have the class error. However, the ID will be password dash error, and I can change the message here to password is required. Well, done from this two inputs and their error message. Now I'm gonna put the markup for my remember me and the check box over here. Both of them will be wrapped inside a div together. So I'm gonna create a div, and inside this div I'm gonna have an input of a type checkbox. And after the input field, I'm going to have a span, which having the text remember me here. So I'm going to have a span, remember me. Okay, after this, now my form is done. The following part here is not a part of the form itself. So I'm going to take any spaces here. So this is my form. I'm done from my form, and I actually can close it like this. Since I'm done from the form, I'm going to have a paragraph here saying or login with. So I'm going to add a p tag or login with. Then I'm going to have two buttons, one for the Facebook so he can log in with the Facebook, and one for the Google where he can enter or log in using his Google account. Both of them, I'm going to wrap them with one div. So I'm going to create a div. I'm going to call this div or give it a class of social for the social buttons. So it's going to be a button. And each button having the icon here. The first one is going to be the Facebook icon. So I can create an I tag, and I can go for, since I'm using Font Awesome version number 4, where you can see it here, I can go for Font Awesome for icons, and usually it's the first link here, and search for any icon. I want the Facebook, And as you can see, for the Facebook, you have multiple. I'm going to use the square one, Facebook square. If you click on it, and it's going to give you the I tag that you can use. I'm going to copy it. And it's usually the FA, which is short for Fun Awesome. This is one class. And then FA dash, whatever the class of the icon that you want to use. And this attribute here, the area hidden equal true. This is for screen reader, for accessibility. I'm just going to take it out. I don't need it. So I'm going to copy this, replace my I tag here. As I said, I don't need this attribute here. For the text part, which we having the Facebook here, so I'm going to type it, Facebook. I'm going to copy this button, copy it one more time. However, for the second one, I don't need the Facebook. I'm just going to need the G of the Gmail. You can always search for it here, which is search for Google. And you're going to have here the G. And when you open it, as you can see, it's FA-Google. So I'm going to change the Facebook-square with Google. And that's it. I don't need the Font Awesome library anymore, or the icons. Now this is for my social. Finally, I'm going to have this footer, which is tell the user, if you're not a member, you can sign up. So I'm going to wrap it up in a div, or actually I'm going to put it in paragraph directly. I'm going to give the paragraph a class of form footer, not a member, and asking the user. And now I'm going to put this link here, which is an A tag, which is not going anywhere. So I can put the href as hashtag, and I'm going to type in sign up. That's it for the markup. Now let's take a look how our application or this page look like right now. I'm going to open it with the live server. And here it is. Pretty much ugly. We need to do a lot of styling to it to make it look like this. Let's start with the styling. So I'm going to close this window. I don't need it anymore. I just need it to put the markup. And I'm going to work with my markup right now to style it. First, I want to reset my browser default. So I'm going to select all the elements in my document using the universal selector. I'm going to do margin 0, padding 0, and box sizing border box. Save that. That will take out all the margins and the padding that by default given by the browser. For the body itself of my document, I want the font family. I want to change it to Arial. And also the background, I'm going to use a linear gradient. And the colors I'm going to use, which is two colors. One of them is like a blue color, 025 0C5. And it's going to go to a pinkish color or a purple color for 3F8D. And if you save this, notice that the gradient or the linear gradient is going to be keep repeating because you never set the height of your body. So it will take only whatever you use and it's going to end here and it's going to keep repeating. So I'm going to put the height to 100 view height. Once you save that, as you can see, it's not repeated anymore. Also for the widths, I'm going to set it to 100 view widths. Now I'm going to start by styling our login window. I'm going to select the login window using the ID, login window. And I want to center it in the middle of the screen. To center it in the middle of the screen, I'm going to use a position absolute, and its parent must have a position of relative. And now since it's absolute, I can use top 50% and left 50%. And that's gonna, if you look here, if you put an imaginary vertical line, you will see that this login window will start exactly after this line. And also, if you put here a line in the middle of the screen, it will start after this line. However, I want to move it a little bit to the top and a little bit to the left. And these values are the 50% of the height of the form and the 50% of the width of the form. So I need to transform and translate this form. Negative 50% as an x-axis and negative 50% of its height. And that's will center it exactly in the middle of the screen. Now I need to give it a background, which is, in that case, is going to be white. And also I need to give it a width. So I'm going to do width of 480 pixels. I need to make the corners here rounded. So I'm going to do border radius 10 pixels. I'm going to do box shadow of 0, 5 pixel, 10 pixel, and RGBA value of 0, 0, 0, which is black, and I'm going to give it the opacity of 0.7. And if I save, as you can see now, the corners are rounded, and also you have the shadow. Next, I'm going to give it a little bit padding to put some spacing or push the content here a little bit inside. So padding will be 2 rem. That's it for now for this form itself. I'm going to start selecting the elements inside it, but later we're going to come back to this form to add the animation. Now I'm going to start with the login itself here, the login header. So I'm going to select the login window, and I want to select the h1 tag that's inside it. And what I want to change in the h1 tag is just this font size, which in that case I'm going to do it 2 rem. Also, I can do text align center. Next, I want to do letter spacing of 2 pixels. And color, I'm going to change the color, make it like a dark gray, which is 333. Save it. I want to give it a margin to the bottom to push everything else a little bit down. Margin bottom 1 rem. Okay, that's it for the h1. Next, for the login form itself here, we want to center everything. So I'm going to select the login form, which is having an ID of login. I'm going to do text align center. And that's going to center everything in my form here. Next, I'm going to target the form input, which a class we give to our 2 inputs here. So it's a class of form input. I'll set the width to be 100%. And I'm going to give it a height of 2.5 rem. Also, I'm going to set the font inside it, which is font size, to 1 rem. I'm going to give it a little bit padding, which is going to be 1 rem. Okay. Also, for the border itself, I'll do border 1 pixel of solid, and I'm going to give like a light gray color, which is CCC. And I'm going to do some rounding corners here using border radius. And the border radius is going to be 5 pixels. Now I need to, as you can see, the error messages are here. I'm going to give some space between the inputs and the error message. So I'm going to do margin, top and bottom, 0.5 rem, left and right, and 0. Now we get this spacing. Another thing, if you focus in any of them, you will see that the browser will give it like a black outline. I want to take that out. I don't need it. Outline, none. And now when I focus in any of the inputs, the inline or the outline is actually not there. Okay, now when I want to focus in any of these inputs, I want to change the border color. So I can do that using form input. And when focus, that's the pseudo class I'm adding. When the user focus on it, I want to change the border to be 2 pixels solid. I'm going to use the same color, the pink color that I used here. And I save it. Now, when I focus in this input, as you can see, the border change. When I focus in the second one, the border also change. Now I want to style my error messages here. And if you remember, we give it a class of error. So I want to text align them to the left. I want to give it a margin of 0.5 rem, top, bottom, left, and right, all the 4 corners. And also the font size, it's supposed to be an error message, so the font size should be less. So I'm going to do 0.9 rem. Also, finally, the color, which is going to be red. Okay. After finishing styling them, I don't want them initially to appear to the user. I want to show them dynamically using the JavaScript. So I need to set the display to none. That will hide them. Next, I'm going to start styling this remember me checkbox and the text here. And if you remember, inside our login form, we have a div. We wrap them by a div. And this was the only div that we have there. So that's how I'm going to select them. And I want to do text align to the left. Also, I want to do margin top 0.5 rem. Also margin left to be 20 pixels. Okay. Let's do margin top and bottom actually. Let's change this 20 pixel, put it here. Okay, that will work. So top and bottom here will be 0.5 rem. Left and right will be 20 pixels. Now I want to style the checkbox itself. I want to make it a little bit bigger so I can target it. It's going to be the login form, the div inside the login form, which is both of them. And I want to target the input that's inside this div. So I can copy this and then add the input, selecting the input. In that case, I'm going to want to do the width 20 pixels, height 20 pixels. And if you save this, here we are. Notice that the text here is not aligned to the checkbox. And to solve this problem, the wrapping div, I'm going to display it as flex. And once I display it as flex, I can use align items to the center. And now you can see that they're already having the same baseline here. However, I want to give a little bit space between the text and the checkbox. So I'm going to do margin right of 10 pixels. That's it for the remember me checkbox. Now we're going to, oh, I forgot to add the login button here. Interesting. So I'm going to get back to my form here. After it's inside this form, just as simply a button with a class of login btn, and I put the text login. Okay, now I have my button here. Now I need to style this button, login btn. I want to do the border, none. Also the outline, none. And by default, if you hover over it, as you can see, it's not going to give you a pointer cursor. So you can set the cursor to a pointer. I want to change the font size to 1 rem. And the letter spacing, I want to do it 2 pixels. If I save this, good. I want to do the width 100%. I want to give it like a padding top and bottom, padding. Get the semicolon here. Padding top and bottom, I'm going to give it 0.75 rem. Left and right can be 0. Okay. Now I need to add a little bit margin to the top. So margin top and bottom will be 2 rem. Left and right will be 0. I want to set the background to linear gradient, and it's going to be having the same value that we're having as the background here. So I can actually take the whole property here, replace this property, save it. However, I don't want it to, by default it's from top to bottom. I want to give it an angle of 45 degree. 45 degree. Okay, that looks nice. Now I need to change the color of the text inside it to white. Also, I need to make it a little bit bold. So I'm going to change the font weight to 700. Okay. Now for the border radius, I'm going to do 5 pixels. Now it's going to make a little bit corners here. And now let's do the hover over effect. So for my login btn, when the user hover over it using the hover pseudo class, I want to add 2 things. I want to change the background. So I'm going to take this here, copy it, and I want to switch the colors here. So I'm going to take this, copy. So the purple going to go first, or the pink color, and then the blue. So I'm going to reverse the color. And I have an extra column here. If I hover over it, or I save first, I need to save. I hover over it. So as you can see, the colors will switch. Okay. Another, I want to add the shadow when I hover over it. So it's going to be box shadow. And it's going to be 0, 5 pixels, 5 pixels, and RGBA. And the opacity, I'm going to be 0.4. So save this. This is much better. Now I want to target this paragraph. And after selecting this paragraph, now I can do text align center and also font size 1.2 rem. And the color, I'm going to give it like a light gray or dark gray, 888. Okay, this color is good. I'm going to do a margin bottom. I'm going to push the content to the bottom, 1 rem. Okay, now let's do the social here, social icons. So if you remember, we wrapped them with a div called social. And now I want to select this social. First, I want to display them as flex. And also justify the content center. The margin, let's see how this looks. Okay, I want to do margin bottom of 2 rem. Okay. Actually, the justify content here, I don't want it to be center. I want to be spaced evenly. For the social button itself, so it's the button that's inside the social div. I'm going to give it a padding of 0.5 rem, top and bottom, 2 rem, left and right. And also I want to set the font size to be 1 rem, the background color to be transparent. Also now I want to get rid of this border. So I want to do border 1 pixel, CCC, solid. Next I want to do border radius of 5 pixels to make it rounded. And finally I want to do letter spacing of 1 pixel. I have Facebook here. I need to fix this. I did this mistake. This here should be Google. Okay, now I'm gonna style the icons themselves that's inside the button. So I'm gonna do social, the I tag, select the I tag, and do font size to make it a little bit bigger. Font size 1.5 rem. That's gonna make them a little bit bigger. And I believe there is something wrong because the font here get bigger too of the button. It's not only the icon. Let me see what I did wrong. Oh, I added this text to the icon. It's not added to the button itself. So I'm going to take it out. This is the icon. And next to the icon is the text. Similar here for the Facebook. It's not inside the icon tags. It's next to them. This is the mistake that I did. Okay, let's save this. And now, yes, it's not affected with the icon size. So I'm going to select my social button, first child. And for my first child here, I want to give the color of royal blue. And also I want to set, just the color for now. It's called social. Did a mistake here? Social. Yep. That's it. For the second one, I'm gonna copy this. The second button is gonna be the last child. In that case, it's gonna be like a red color. So I'm gonna first select the red, then I'm gonna hover over this and make it a little bit lighter red like this and put it as a hex value and save it. Okay, here we are. And we want to do the hover effect. So I'm going to select this guy here, the first child. And after the button, I'm going to start adding the hover pseudo class. And then the first child here. And when I hover over it, what I want to do, I want to set the background color to Dodger blue. And I want to set the color to white. Let's give it a try. Yep, it's happening so fast. However, I can add a transition here. Transition of a background color. Just adding background. I don't need to have background here. Color, just background. For the background, I'm going to add 0.5 seconds, half a second to do the transition. And now it's a background. I'm missing the N here. Yep. Now it's half a second and it's giving transition. This is also the transition will be used for the last child. Actually, instead of putting it here and here, I can put all the transitions. I'm going to take a cut out of here inside any of the buttons. I'll save it here. And it's still working. For the last child, when I hover over it, so I'm going to copy this and adding the hover pseudo class. What I want to do is flip the colors where the background now will be this color red. And for the color will be the white color. Okay, working perfect. And here working perfect. Now we need to do the footer, which is our last styling here. So I'm going to do for footer, text align center. The color will be 444. And now for the link is going to be form, footer, and the A tag will be color, orange, and text decoration, none. Now let's work on the animation of the form itself. So I want the animation when I first start my page to be animated from the top bottom. For that, I'm going to use keyframes. I'm gonna call it fade down animation, and it's gonna start from the top will be set to negative 100%, and also the opacity will be 0. So this is when the element starts. It will be all the way up negative 100% to the top of the body, and it will fade down or drop down to top 50%. So it's like in the middle of the screen, and the opacity will be 1. So it's not going to be transparent anymore. You're going to start transparent and then appear. So this is the keyframes or the animation that I'm going to use, and I need to assign it to my login window here. So I'm going to do animation. The name of the animation that I just created is fade down, and it will take probably give it 2 seconds. Let's try 2 seconds and save it. Let's go down. Okay, good. Actually, this is a little bit slow. Let's add 1 second to make it fast. So it's going fast. Good. So this is for the animation part. Now, also, I want to make this responsive. So I want to do an inspect. And let's do, for example, iPhone 5. Let's close it like this, inspect. And now this is what we have in the smaller screens. It's look ugly. It's not adapting to the phone screen. Also for iPhone X, it's not adapting. To fix this, I'm going to use the media queries. And my breakpoint here for mobile devices is going to be media query, media, where the max width is 500 pixels. When it's 500 pixels, what I need to do is, let me put this on the side back, put it 75%, okay. What I need to do is, I want to select my login window, which in that case, login window, and I want to set the width to be 90% of my view width. And now that will adjust the width of my form in the mobile devices. That's pretty much it here. For the social media icons here, I need to change that. So I gotta select the social button. And I wanna reduce the padding with padding top and bottom 0.5 rem, left and right 1 rem. Okay, and it worked. Okay, let's test it for much smaller devices, which having iPhone 5. This is still having a problem. To fix this, I can always change the font size, which I'm going to make it less, which is 0.8 rem. Okay, let's do it 0.7 rem. Yep, but also it's not fixing the gapping here. So the padding left and right is going to be 0.75. Okay, now this is working. Let's look back how the iPhone X working. Good. And for my bigger screen, it's working perfect. When you refresh it here. Now let's work on the error messages here. If I try to submit the button, now as you can see, when I submit the button, nothing happened. Just going to keep repeating. I want to prevent that from happening and show my custom, do some validation, and show my custom error in case the user didn't fill these values. Okay, I'm going to start inside my JavaScript file here. It's empty right now. The first step, always, you get hold on all the elements that you're going to need from your index.html. And I noticed I did a mistake, but I fixed it here. For my input field, I forgot to add an ID for it. In that case, I added the ID username. Also for the password field, I added an ID password in order to get a hold on them or select them from the DOM in my JavaScript file. So I'll start by that. I'm going to create constants, and I'm going to call the first one username equal document dot get element by ID. And in that case, I'm getting the username. Also, I'm going to get the password. Next, I want to get hold on the error messages, which are here. I give it an ID username error and password error, because that's the one I want to either let them appear or disappear using their display value. So if I want to make them disappear, I'll put the display equal none. If I want to make them appear, the display was going to be equal to block. So I'm going to do constant. I'm going to get hold on them. User name error equal document dot get element by ID user error. Okay, I'm going to also get the password error. This is actually username, and this is going to be password. And I'm going to change here password. And the final element I want to get hold on it in my JavaScript file is going to be the login button itself. I'm going to call it submit btn. And that's actually not an ID, it's a class. So I'm going to use document.query selector. And the class name was login dash btn. Okay, once I get a hold on all the elements that I need, now I can do my event listener. And I want to listen for the username field or the input field when the user try typing any characters in it or any letters. So I'm going to do the event listener to my user name input field and add event listener. And the event that I want to listen to is going to be key up. When he pressed the key up from the keyboard, I want to do the following function, or I want to run the following function. And the function itself, it's going to check the value of the username dot value, and it will compare it with nothing. So if he didn't enter anything or it's empty, so he focused and he entered type in anything, however he deleted and it's empty, I want to set the username error. I want to style it and make the display block. Else, if it's not empty, the username error should be staying as display none. And that's it. Similar for the password field, input field. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it here. And using the Visual Studio Code, you can highlight the username here. Keep pressing Control D. You're going to highlight the next one. And now you can do group editing. I'm going to change them to password. And that's it for the password. We fix it. Now let's give it a try. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to try type in something, John. And once I delete it, now it's empty. It's going to show you the error here. Username is required. So once I type in anything again, the error message will go away. Similar for the password here, I can put 123, and it will eliminate the error message. Now also for the submit button, right now I check for them dynamically when the user keep entering the values, but the submit button, the user can actually submit it with an empty values. So I want to fix this. So for the submit button, I want to add event listener, but in that case, it's going to listen for the click when the user click it to submit the form, and it's going to run the following function. And the function technically, it will do pretty much the same thing here. It will first check if the username value is empty. And if it's empty, it will display the error message corresponding to the username. And also we'll check the password. And if it's empty, it will print the error message. Let me format it. And finally, I want to do else. If none of them happening, I want to do the username error dot style dot display equal none. And also the password, if he enter a value, it should be none. And another thing, I want to create an object. I'm going to call it let. This is the credential object. I'm going to do CRED equal, open the object, and it's having a key value, user name. I'm going to use a string template here. Whatever the user entered inside the user name dot value. And now for the password, the value will be whatever he entered, and it's also a string template. Going to be the password dot the value he entered from the keyboard. And now after I store it in my credential object, I can console log it. So it's console.log, and it will display my credential object. So I notice I just forget the key here. So I'm going to edit K for click and save that, and let's give it a try. And now if I try to submit this form, it's going to tell me username is required, password is required. And once I fill in these values, the error message will go away. Here, let's put John, submit the form, and look at the console log or the console of this browser. As you can see, you will store the password and the username in the object. And that's it. I hope you enjoyed this project and you find it helpful. If you do like it, please hit the like button. And if you're not subscribed to our channel, please do to see our latest videos and our projects.